If I know anything, if I've learned anything of value, if I've learned the deepest of convictions about anything of value, it is that family is a state of being it's a state we can be in or not. It's a state that others can be in or not. It's a state we can be in toward an individual or a group or all of humanity or all of creation. And it's a state others can be in or not, toward us, toward others, ultimately toward all of creation. This is the foundation of the gospel of the man Jesus as I know him and as I know his teaching. The entire gospel. We are not family to humanity. We are not family to creation. We're told in this ecocidal culture that that's silly, that that's impossible, that that's wrong, that that's naive, that that's irresponsible. Our fleshly spirit had to develop that culture, or we couldn't have everything that we see around us, which is 99.999% at the expense of creation, at the expense of others. We had to invent an alternative to the gospel in our hearts that Jesus rediscovered for us, as have others. Or we couldn't have all these monuments to our true religion, our fleshly religion of this last 2,000 years and longer, but we've ever intensified it. I just this morning, in pondering this, saw that family is yet another synonym for loving as Jesus met it, agape. Solidarity is another symptom. Respect is another symptom. Helping, true helping, is probably another symptom. I'm in a coffee shop right now. I come here every Sunday to gather electrons. These people are family to me. We don't chat, we don't socialize. I didn't understand their hours. As the manager was unlocking the door and letting me in at 10 after 8, I was surprised it wasn't open at 8. And with the most genuine kindness, he said something about the VIP treatment this morning. That led to a brief interchange. They don't open till 9, and I turned to leave, and he said, no, you stay. They may not be saints, but the whole staff in this little franchise store, medium-sized franchise store, are so kind. It's quite stunning. The coffee shop I go to several days a week, Firehooke at 4th and D. These folks are family to me. It's extraordinary. There was an annual street festival on about 5 blocks of Pennsylvania Avenue, including right in front of the embassy yesterday, an Asian festival. I must have passed a year now of the vigil in front of the Canadian Embassy, because last year was the first time I saw it. Woke up at 2 in the morning then, as I did on Saturday morning this, to the sound of tent poles, metal tent poles being dropped out of trucks and then erected. Maybe 60 tents lining both sides of Pennsylvania Avenue. And by 6 in the morning, the trucks arrived from these folks that would set up an outdoor restaurant in each of their respective tents. So 6 in the morning, maybe earlier. My post is right by a lamp right by the curb, and last year I was so intense, rightly so, thinking that my role was to try and save humanity, whereas I, in recent weeks, have concluded that's not possible, that's not going to happen. But I was trying to move the whole world last year, so I remained in my focus and I didn't move. I did ask several times if they needed me to, and they said no, but I was cramping them. At 7 yesterday morning, I moved the light and mosquito obstructor I keep over my face. Having heard these folks setting up at 6, I did glance occasionally. I knew I wasn't in their way. And the first thing I saw was this tremendously intense Korean woman, obviously the one in charge of her tent, owner, I'll guess. Big smile. She speaks some English, but not a lot. Big, warm, executive type smile. Good morning. And I was already smiling at her and kept it going and wished her good morning. And shortly collected my stuff and moved to the other side of the sidewalk to be sure that in no way was I detracting or interfering with them. The official closing time, I'll guess, was 6 yesterday evening. I was reading yesterday, but I let myself be distracted by what was going on in a number of respects with this festival. And what most caught my attention throughout the day was how hard these people worked. The woman I've just referred to, her crew is all female. Daughters, I'll guess, nieces, another lady her age, I'm guessing they're in their 40s. I don't recall ever seeing anyone sit down and rest. I don't ever recall anyone ever seeing anyone look tired, fatigued. They just worked, and not like automatons, particularly this older lady, but none of them. They were clearly, yes, serving delicious food, preparing it, cooking it. But they were clearly working for something larger. So the serious cooking and cleanup began around 5:30 or 6. Serious cooking stopped around 6. Cleanup was beginning. But what trays of food the various booths had, they would still sell to stragglers. About 6:15, one of the younger women appeared in front of me with this heaping container of food, one of the meals that they sell for about $8. "My boss wanted you to have this," she said. I was sitting there to the casual eye doing nothing all day long for the 12 hours that they were unceasingly working. How easily they could have thought, "That bum." They could easily have thought, "I've been working my butt off all day long. Thank goodness that bum doesn't have the fruits of my labor." No. No, instead they send over a delicious meal. I would have been inclined to do what I did anyway 10 minutes after I began consuming this meal. I would have been inclined, but not with the intensity. Shame on me. And I stood respectfully, now closer to where they were working. Their panel truck had pulled over. No, I guess it was when their panel truck pulled over, and I realized, oh my gosh, I might have an opportunity to help these folks. Not that they would need it, but they might appreciate it. Their legs must be exhausted. And this lady who's in charge, who is just this ball of energy, executive, kind, intense energy. Wound up kindly accepting my help, and particularly anything that was heavier, I would grab and carry over to the truck. It was so nice for me to be able to contribute, not in return for the meal, but in support of these people that were working so hard for something bigger. In the 1-minute interchange the lady and I had, when I commented how hard she worked. Yes, I work for my mom, I work for my children. And it was, she was just so upbeat as she was saying it. In that act of kindness, they were family to me. 2 sisters, mid-40s, I'll guess. One down from Connecticut, the other lives in Northern Virginia. 2 professional women. I was aware that in mid-afternoon they had appeared at my side. Not necessarily to see me, rather I thought to just sit and eat. And then one of their faces was right in front of mine. "May I buy you a meal?" And I said, "Bless your heart." And she showed up 10 minutes later with a plate of food laden in front of me. "May we sit with you and talk and we did for 45 minutes. They learned from me, and I learned from them. They were being family to me. A while later, after they had left, I needed to go to the restroom, and for festivals like this, they have porta-johns, so that's quite a luxury, but it was across Pennsylvania Avenue. It would take me 5 minutes. And I noticed a fella, probably late 40s, I'll guess a professional here in town, quite sure, white fella, and these two ladies were white as well. He was standing across the driveway, so 10 paces from my stuff. We hadn't had any communication. I passed him to throw out a paper cup or something, and on the way back I said, if you're going to be here, he was finishing up a plate of food, would you mind keeping an eye on my stuff while I run to the restroom? And he said, yes, I'll wait till you get back. And I, very kindly, and I said, well, that's not necessary, but as long as you're here, if you keep an eye on it. And I made it my business to see him, for him to see me, that I was moving quickly away. But I didn't want to inconvenience him. When I came back, he was there. And I caught his attention, and I said, thank you so much. He was done eating at that point, and his departure was a path of walking that was heading in front of me. So I smiled, and he held out his hand and gave me a significant sized bill. Money. Please use this for dinner or lunch tomorrow. It was a significant sized bill. And he said, God bless you, and that gave me the opportunity to say one of the things I love to say to folks. I said, he just did, didn't he? And as people do, he thought for a second, and then he said, well, then he smiled in a knowing way. He hadn't stopped. I hadn't tried to stop him, but he went on his way. He was family to me. Every Saturday morning at 7 o'clock, every Sunday morning at 7 o'clock, Episcopal Church crew of 4 folks, 3 loving, 1 like he is in a work release program. It's quite funny, dour fellow, but the other 3 quite loving. I woke up to her 7 a.m. Would you like some coffee? Cal, I think her name is. Late 40s, I think. They are family to us. There are 2 rewards in life that are worth anything. The most important by far, the most rewarding by far, is being family, being loving. No one can take that reward from you except yourself. And except for experience, if you've never had examples in your life, which most of us don't. But if you have, and it started the fire in you, then ultimately no one can take that away from you except for you if you choose to stop doing it for whatever reason. But the second reward, the only of 2 that's worth anything, is the blessing of someone being family to you. That's the truth of it, friends. You may not have paused long enough to think about it and experience deeply enough, but if you do, you will realize that what I'm saying is correct. And if you ponder it deeply and you consider that I'm incorrect, please let me know. universal family, agape, universal loving, unconditional loving, helping, solidarity, partnership. It's another synonym for loving, properly understood. This is the good news. This is the good news simply about what we are. That we have that part of our nervous system. And regardless of external circumstances, if we exercise it, it's heaven. That's the gospel. That's the whole deal. It's individual salvation. And for each who does it, they become an impetus, an inspiration, a path for others to rediscover that within themselves and thereby save themselves. That's all that matters. It's the only hope individually and collectively. How does it manifest itself? How does eyesight manifest itself? In a trillion different possible ways. How does blindness manifest itself? In a trillion possible ways. But we know blindness, don't we? Let's take physical blindness. It's obvious. We know sight. Let's take in a physical way. It's obvious. To those of us that take a moment to think deeply, being family, being loving, is obvious. Not being family, not being loving, is obvious. Those are the two existential choices. To be loving, to be family, or not. That's it. Everything else is a symptom of that in your individual life, in how you influence the world, and in whether you're a hope or leading the world in the wrong direction, as I did most of my life. I didn't know, but I know now.